Welcome students again for this wonderful day, and in this Google meeting I am going to talk about the test of hypothesis. What are the things are involved in that is what I am going to discuss about. Okay, so first of all I must thank all of you for coming over here for this wonderful Google Meet. Nearly so many people are present here to listen to my voice. It is a very good time for all of you. In this class I'm going to talk about test of hypothesis. What are the things are involved in that? That is what my aim today. Happy again, and let me start my class now. All of you come to the board now. What you are seeing is the test of hypothesis. What is meant by test of hypothesis? Okay, so in engineering or in any management or whatever it may be, when you are making a fact, a discovery, then you cannot simply discover. You must make a hypothesis, and then you have to prove whether it is accepted or rejected. Then only the fact will be accepted universally. So test of hypothesis includes formulation of hypothesis, and then finding out it test statistics, then the critical value, that is theoretical value, we have to find out. Then comparison should go on between the critical value and the statistical value, and if the statistical value, I mean observed value, is less than the critical value, then we accept the hypothesis, otherwise we are rejecting the hypothesis. Okay, so we must understand that the totality of all is called test of hypothesis. So it is look like an ant, but it is an elephant. That's what we have to understand. Now let me take one by one. The test of hypothesis, of course, test of hypothesis, I told you there are 5 steps, and so starting with what is a population. You must understand what is a population. The small part of a big part aimed at to understand something is called a population. A big part of a small part, on which the small part we take some decision, and if that is expanded to population, and then it is called a population. That is, suppose this is a big one, and from this we are taking a small one, and we are studying on this. Okay, we are studying on this, and this idea is again this taken back to take decision on the population. Okay, so this big one is called a population, and whereas small one is called a statistic, we say. Okay, small part is called statistics, and big part is called population. So that's what you have to understand before entering into this topic. So population means a big group of elements aimed at to study something on it as a population. Total people in the Coimbatore, that may be one of the example, and also now look at that. You have lost that idea. where it has gone. It is this side. Yes, big part of a small part, as you have been discussing as the test of hypothesis. A population is nothing but a big part of a small part is called population. A lot of examples I can give. Take for example, if we want to know the average income of the Coimbatore people, then we are choosing only 100 people from Coimbatore. Then we are studying the average wage of those people. Then we are extending that idea to Coimbatore. The big one is called population. The small, that is 100 people we have taken, is a statistic. Now coming back to the screen, so sample is a small part of a big population. Example we can give as you see on the screen. For example, 10 students in a class to study the status of mathematical status of a class. We are taking only 10 students. And this particular class may have 100 students. So the 100 students together, we call it as population. That is, this is the whole bigger class in which we are taking only some 10 students. Okay, 10 students, and we study these 10 students, and that character is expected to apply on the populations. Okay, so this is what is called a sample. So sample means small part of a big part. That's called what we say samples. So this is what a big part. In that big part, the small part, we call it a sample. So this is a sample where this is a population aimed at study something on it. Okay, now after coming to understand what is a sample, the next point is about parameters and statistics. Any characteristics on the population is termed as parameters. So parameters is nothing but the characteristics of a population. That is called the parameters. Okay, you look at that. What is this parameters? Okay, now as I just before I was explaining to you, take for example, this is what a population. Suppose we want to study the mean of this population is called parameters. Okay, or standard deviation of this particular universe is called parameters. So any characteristic connected to this population is called parameters. Example, mean, standard deviation, variation, whatever it may be, we can say. Okay, now from this particular population, we are getting a sample. Okay, this is what the sample. In the sample also we can study, take for example, x bar. X bar we can find out our standard deviation. Okay, so this small part is called a statistic. I mean, the characteristic of the small part of the big part, that is sample, are called statistics. Okay, so that's what you have to understand. So statistics is nothing but the characteristics of the samples. Characteristic of the sample is called statistics, whereas parameters means the characteristics of the universe. Characteristics of the universe, we call it as parameters. Characteristics of the universe or population is called the parameters, whereas characteristics of small samples we call it as statistics we say. Now coming back to this, what are the types of sampling? There are so many types of samplings are there. Okay, so what is different types of samples? Now look at that. I can take this is what population. Suppose my aim is that to study with some purposively I am taking sampling from this purposively. Take for example, I want to know the height of the students in a class. This is what class, okay, BE class, BE agree we can say, BE agree we can say. So from this particular BE agree class, I want to know the average height of the students. So I am taking some students from that. I am making one samples. Okay, this is called a purposive sampling. Why purposive sampling? Because purposively I have taken the samples. What is the purpose? To know the height of the people, to know the height of the students I am taking this. So there is some purpose is that, okay, with some purpose I am taking a small group from the big group, and that is called a purposive sampling. Now what about the random sampling? Okay, the random sampling. Random sampling means I can give an example here. Suppose this is a population. These are the elements in the population. Okay, so I am choosing some elements from this. To make some study, so that I can apply that idea on this particular population. So if the selection is such that each and every items here have equal probability of selection, equal probability of coming into the selection, then we say that it is a random sampling. Random sampling means each and every elements in the population have the equal probability of choosing in the selection. Such a sampling making from the population, we call it as random sampling. Now next we talk about stratified random sampling. Stratified random sampling means, and stratify or random sampling, okay, and this is what we call stratified random sampling. Stratified random sampling means again, suppose this is the population. This population I am stratifying, means that I am dividing this population into small division. Then from that particular division I am taking the samples, okay, from these terms two samples, from this some two samples, from these two items, from these two items, from these two items I am taking there to make a small sample from the population. Okay, so this type of sampling is called stratified sampling. Okay, so stratified random sampling means, as I already told you that suppose this is a population, I am dividing into so many groups, then I am drawing a sampling from each group, and this grouping and then sampling is called stratified random sampling. Now last one is systematic random sampling. So what do you mean by systematic random sampling? Now I am using some systematic idea to bring small group from a big group. Okay, take for example, this is a class. So in this class I want to know the average weight of the students. So I have to select some small groups. Am I correct? So I am making a small group of the students from the particular class, such that I am using some systematic idea. Take for example, the odd numbers registered students come here. Odd number registered students come here. Like that I am telling there. So system is that odd number of registered or odd registered number students, that means what? 1, 3, 5, 7, all these students come here. Like that I am ordering, so that I can make a small group from the big group. Am I correct? Some systematic idea. And this type of sampling we call it as systematic sampling. I repeat again, systematic sampling means we are using some systematic idea to select a small group from the big group. Take for example, this is a class from which I have to take the sample in order to study the average weight of the students. What I am doing is that I am making sampling such that some technique I am using there. One of the technique may be of odd number students, odd registered number students come over here. So that students only will come here. That is one technique. Otherwise, that is your registration number plus 1 come here. Like that also we can. So some systematic idea if you use to select the small number from the big number, then it will be called a systematic sampling. Now coming to the next one, as sampling distribution. Okay, the sampling distribution is nothing but a single population for the same sample size. We find the mean for all and we distribute according to the interval. This we call sampling distribution. From a single population for the same sample size, we find mean for all and we distribute according to the interval. So that is nothing but that. Take for example, this is what? A population. From the population I am taking lot of samples. This is one sample. For that I am taking mean, and another sample I am taking there. For that also I am taking mean, and also another sample I am taking. For that I am taking the mean, and also I am sampling, other sampling I am taking, and I will find the mean, such that all these samples have equal size. Suppose 20 students are here, so only 20 students are here for this particular sample. For this sample also 20 students, for this also 20 students. Okay, so we can get so many samples like this from the same population. For that mean I am making a distribution. So okay, I am making a distribution. Take for example, I am making a distribution from this some limit. Suppose the mean is between 20 and 50. How many means are coming? Some 10 means are coming here. Suppose the mean of mean like between 60 and 70. Some 5 students may be there, and between 80 and 90. The mean number of mean lies in this region may be some 6, like that. So this particular distribution, okay, we call it as sampling distribution. Okay, so I repeat again, single population we are taking, from the single population, different samples we are taking there. For different samples, for different samples of the same size, we are finding out the mean. Okay, that mean is frequency distribution is made for those means. Okay, like this, as you see on the screen, between 10 and 50, how many means are coming? Between 60 and 70, how many means are coming? How many samples are coming? Between 80 and 19, how many samples are coming? Like that, we are making the distribution. That distribution we call it as sampling distribution. Okay, now the test of significance. Okay, that's what very important thing, and I will take that into here. Let me take that, and then we will study that test of significance. That is what the next we have to study. Am I correct? So test of significance means, as I already told you, that whether there is a significance difference between the two characteristics. Take for example the difference between the mean of the two samples, or there is a significant difference between the standard deviation of the two samples, and that we can say there is a significance difference or not. So how far the sample statistics are deviated from the corresponding population characteristic, that's we call it as test of significance. Then I already told you that what is a test of hypothesis. Okay, so I told you that the test of hypothesis consists of 5 steps: step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and step 5. The first one I already told you that it is a hypothesis formulation. Okay, so hypothesis formulation is the first step. Second step is that to find out the test statistic that we have to calculate for the given situation. Third one is about tabular value for the given statistics, and fourth one is comparison of these two, test statistic and tabular value. This comparison consists of 2 ways. One is if test statistic value is less than tabular value, then H0 is accepted. Okay, that's what you have to understand. H0 is accepted. Suppose test statistics value is greater than the tabular value, then the H0 is not accepted but rejected. The last one is conclusion. Okay, conclusion means if the test statistics value less than what is that tabular value, then H0 is accepted. If test statistic value is greater than the tabular value, then H0 is rejected. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these 5 steps are called test of hypothesis. Okay, so that's what you have to understand. Now next is critical region. Critical region means the region which rejects the null hypothesis, or a rejection region is called a critical region. Okay, take for example, this is a normal curve. In the normal curve, this is what the central one. Suppose in this particular area it may be accepted, and this particular area it may be rejected. Okay, so with this rejected area, and that is accepted area, this is rejected area. So region in which the null hypothesis is rejected is called rejected area, otherwise it is accepted area. In the same way this side also, this is accepted area and there may be a small region where our null hypothesis may be rejected. Null hypothesis may be rejected, and this is called what? A critical region, because it criticize whether the null hypothesis should be accepted or rejected. So this is a normal curve, you can see here, and this area we call it as this particular area we call it as accepted region. Okay, this is what we call the accepted region of the hub of this, and this is called a rejected area. This is rejected area. That's the way we are defining a critical region. So critical region criticize whether the null hypothesis accepted or rejected. Now coming to the next point is about now look at that. Next one is level of significance. Okay, so usually the level of significance are 90% or 99%. That is 1% is the level of significance, or 5% level of significance. Okay, so there are 5% level of significance or 1% level of significance. That's what we have, only two levels. That's what we have to understand. That's what I have to, just before I was explaining you, this is a normal curve. In the normal curve, this is 95% the chance of acceptance, or 0.05% of rejection, or this is accepted region, and this is a rejected percentage level of significance. So if the level of significance means this amount only is significant and this amount is not significant, the other level we can say is that about 91% or 99% of level of significance. What is the meaning? The level of significance is 0.01. Both are equal. Okay, so this level of acceptance, this level of rejection, this level of acceptance with this level of significance. So this is what we call level of significance. So probability that the statistics lies in the critical region is called the level of significance. Okay, so the statistics may lie in this particular region, then it is level of significance is 0.05. If it lies in this particular region, then the level is 0.01. The probability that it lies in the critical region is called level of significance. Okay, now next one is type of error. There are two types of error. The first error is that the first level of significance, that's what we discussed just before. Now next one is about the error. There are two types of error. Okay, two types of error we say, and one is this, another one is this. The first one is H0 is rejected when it should be accepted. Actually the hypothesis, null hypothesis we are making may be accepted. It must be accepted, but unfortunately we will be rejecting this. H0 is rejected, but actually it must be accepted. This type of error we call it as type 1 error. So what is the other chance? Exactly opposite is that it should be the H0 should be rejected, but it is accepted. But it should be rejected. Actually H0 should be rejected actually, but it is accepted. This type of error we call it as type 2 error. Okay, so there are two types of error here. First one we call it as type 1 error. Type 1 error, what is that? Type 1 error is that H0 is rejected. H0 is rejected, but it is actually should be accepted. H0 is rejected, but it should be accepted. This is called first error or the error, type 1 error. Type 2 error is that the H0 is accepted. H0 is accepted, but it should be actually rejected. H0 is accepted, but it should be rejected. This type of error we call it as type 2 error. Okay, type 2 error. So these two types of error are very important. Okay, so what we have studied so far is all these things. Am I right? Yeah. The first one is test of hypothesis. First one is the test of hypothesis, we say, and it is nothing but we have to test the hypothesis, whatever it may be. It may be rejected or accepted. That's called test of hypothesis. We are testing the hypothesis after making the null hypothesis. Okay. The second point is about population. We know population. What is a population? Population is a big part of a small part. It's called a population. Okay. The third one is about the samples. Small part of a big part is called the sample. The small part means the small part we are taking and studying. Our aim is to apply to the big part. That's what. So that small part we call it as a population. The next one is parameters and statistics. We know what is parameters. The characteristics of the population is called parameters, and the characteristics of the sample is called statistics. Right. Next, about parameters and statistics. The types of sampling. So many types are there. First one is purposive sampling. With some purpose, we are selecting the sample in order to expand that characteristics from the sample to the population. Such a sampling is called purposive sampling. Stratified random sampling means the total population is divided into small group. From small group we are taking and then we are studying, and that particular characteristics is applied to the population. This type of sampling is called stratified random sampling. Next one is called random sampling, where each item or each element in the population have the equal probability of coming into the selection. Is called a random sampling. So these are some of the types of last one is about systematic sampling. Systematic sampling means we are using some systematic idea to select the items from the population so that the selected items are studied and applied on the population. So the selection is by some systematic idea. Take for example, to choose a sampling from the class, the class teacher is using all the odd number registered students come here like that. So only odd students will come there. Some systematic idea issued. So like that, the different types of samplings are there. Next we studied about sampling distribution. Sampling distribution is nothing but that is from the same population, so many samples are taken with the same size. The size of the samples are equal. Then those samples are distributed according to the interval. Okay, so this distribution of the mean of the samples with the same size with the interval according to the interval are distributed. This is called a sampling distribution. Okay. Now next we talked about test of significance difference. Test of significant difference means, is there any significant difference between the population and the sampling? That's called what? Degree of or significance between the samples and population is called significant difference. Now next one is talk about the test of hypothesis. Test of hypothesis, as I already told you, there are 5 steps out there. First one is hypothesis formulation. Second step is that calculation of statistics, and third step is about the identification of the table of value, and the fourth what we call it as the fourth step is about comparison of the calculated value and table of value, and last one is conclusion. All this together we call it as test of hypothesis. That's what we have to understand. Now critical region. What is a critical region means? Okay, the probability of statistics fall on the region, whether it is accepted or rejected, is called a critical region. If the statistics falls on the accepted region, then it's called accepted region. If the statistics falls on the negative side, I mean rejected side, then it's called a critical region. So critical region criticize whether the statistics lies on the accepted region or rejected region. This is what we call a critical value. Now next one is about level of significance. Okay, usually the level of significance may be 0.01%. Okay, that's 1% level of significance, or another one is about 0.05 or 5% level of rejection, or 5% level of significance. The significance exists, but it is only 5%. 1% level of significance means there exists significant that is 1% level of significance only. Remaining 99% we can accept the H0. The significance level for 0.05 means 95% we can accept, but 5% we cannot accept. That is the meaning there. These are called the level of significance. Last but least, the type of errors. There are 2 types of errors. The first type of error is that H0 is rejected when it should be accepted. When H0 should be accepted, we are rejecting that. That is called the first type of error. Second type of error is that the H0 is accepted, actually it should be rejected. H0 should be accepted, you should, but actually it should be H0 is accepted, but it should be rejected. So such a type of error we call it as type 2 error. So dear students, it's very happy that I am with you for the past nearly 40 minutes, and I was discussing about all the terms coming in the first unit, that is test of hypothesis. Okay, so I am recalling that. Just look at that. Now what is very important facts are here. First one is population, sample, parameters and statistics, types of sampling, sampling distribution, test of significance, test of hypothesis, critical region, level of significance, type of errors. So dear students, it's very happy that I am with you for the past 40 minutes, and really thank you for showing patience with me. And so thank you very much indeed. And I will come with another topic, with another video. Till then, so thank you very much indeed.